can keep your next bike ride on track with just a few tools and some know-how. Hi, I'm Rebecca Brayton and welcome to WatchMojo.com. And today we'll be learning how to change your bike tire from the folks at Cycle Tours Montreal and Training Mobs.
So you're riding along, you're out on the road, and you hit a sharp rock, and you hear that telltale sign that lets you know you've got a flat tire. It's that shh, and your tire rapidly deflates. Now I'm going to show you how to change that flat tire. And in order to do that, you're going to need 3 simple pieces of equipment. The first thing you're going to need is a new spare tube. The second thing you'll need is a set of tire levers. These are going to make it a lot easier to pull the tire off the rim. And the third thing you're going to need is a bike pump to help you reinflate your tire. This is the style of bike that has hex nuts or hex bolts. So you loosen off the nuts, and before you pull off the tire, depending on the kind of brakes you have, you want to make sure you loosen them off. This style of bike has what we call V-brakes, which is a very common type of cantilever brake. So we're just going to loosen those off. Okay, so we've loosened off the brakes, and then the wheel should just slide right out. The first thing we need to do is take the tire off the rim. Take the curved end of the tire lever, and you want to pinch the tire, put the tire lever under the bead of the tire, and basically try and get a grip on it and lever it over the rim, just like that. And then you use the little hook here to hook it around the spoke. It'll stay in place. Grab another tire lever and just place it in like so. And you sort of want to move it around a little bit. And this tire is kind of easy, so I'm just gonna go right the way around. And what we've just done is unseated the bead of the tire from the rim. If you put your fingers up into the tire, you can grab the tube, you can easily pull it out. The last thing you got to do is grab the valve and pull it out from the rim. There's actually no need to take the tire completely off the rim. It's sitting there quite happily, and before we put the new tube in, we basically want to go hunting for the suspect. It might have been a sharp rock that you ran over, or it could have been a thumbtack or a nail or a screw or something like that that's actually still lodged in the tire. And before you put in the new tube, you want to make sure that that object's now gone. So there's one really simple way to do that, and that's simply to just grab your fingers and basically just sort of want to run them around the inside of the tube. Obviously go fairly softly and gently, because if there's something sharp in there, you don't want to cut yourself, and make sure it's nice and clean. So one thing to bear in mind when you're actually going to change the tube in your tire is the tube size. So this one says it needs a 700 by 35C type tube. And as you'll see, we've got ourselves a 700 by 35 tube. As you can see, this thing has absolutely no air in it, and it's got no shape. It's gonna prove a little annoying to put in the tire when it's this deflated. So what we're gonna do is just put a little bit of air in it, and that's gonna make your life easier when it comes to putting it back in the tire. Now we're gonna fit the inner tube back into the tire, find the valve, and put it back through the hole in the rim. And then you wanna grab the tire bead and lift it up over the tube. And then what we're gonna do is work the tube around and seat it into the tire, just like so. So it's nicely sitting in the tire. And then what we want to do is get the bead seated back under the rim. So again, we always start the valve with all of our 4 fingers on each hand. We want to sort of pull it back and push it down into the rim, and you'll see it become seated. And then we work our way around the rim like so. When you get towards the end, you'll find it gets a little more difficult. It's looking fairly snug, but there's one thing you want to do to make sure that the tube is not pinched on the inside of the tire. You sort of pinch the tire and just roll it back and forth. You want to make sure that the tire bead is nicely seated in the rim, and you just want to make sure that the inner tube isn't actually pinching between the tire bead and the rim wall. Because if it is, when you go to inflate it, you might just puncture the tire again. So, most of you will have a hand pump like this, but we're in a workshop, so we're gonna cheat and use a 4 pump. So you just want to inflate the tire to about 10 or 20 PSI. That's basically so that you can ensure that the tube's not pinching before you fully inflate it. So what we're actually going to do now is just deflate the tire again. You might hear it creak a little bit, and that's basically the tube just getting seated nice and snug throughout the wheel. Now we're going to reinflate it to its proper pressure. Once again, you're going to look at the tire wall to see just how much you actually need to inflate the tire, because it varies. We need to inflate to 50 to 75 PSI, and I usually pick somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to inflate it to 60 PSI. There we are. Okay, so now we have our nicely inflated bike tire. We're going to go ahead and fit that back into the bike and we'll be ready to roll.